Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 3, which is expressions and interactivity. Before I do that, do you have any questions over chapters 1 and 2? The assignments, yes.
Not the assignments, but just like a particular code.
What, I'm sorry?
It's not the assignment, but a particular code.
A particular code? What is your?
For the integer and double.
The difference between integer and double? Okay, that is the data types. Remember, the data types, they are going to be specifying what values we're going to be placing in memory. Okay. So it's going to set up the location in main memory for the variables or for the constants, if we're going to be naming some constants like we're going to be doing later on. But the data type is going to say, okay, in this location in memory, you can store letters and only letters, single letters or single characters, or you can store multiple characters, or you can store just numbers, whole numbers, or you can store absolute values or floating point numbers. So it's going to determine what you want to store in that location in main memory. So the difference between the INT data type and the double data type is going to be INT can only store integers, whole numbers, no fractions. The double is a floating point storage area, so it can store values that have the integer value plus the fraction. So if my result of the operation is just, I know that it's always going to be integers, like age. Age, we are never going to say, okay, you are 18 years and a half. It's just, you're 18 years old, right? So we know that it's going to be an INT. But if it's going to be like dollars and cents, we know that we're always going to have cents. It's going to be $12 and no cents, or $12 and 1 cent, or $12.50, but we're always going to mention the cents. So we want to put it in a double. So that is the difference between those two. Okay, so these are the topics that we're going to be covering in chapter number 3. The first one is the CIN. The CIN object is going to be something similar to the COUT. With the COUT, we're displaying to the screen, but with the CIN, we're going to be accepting input. So this is going to give us an interactivity with the program. The user is going to be able to communicate with the program, with the CPU. We are also going to continue with mathematical expressions. We started with the arithmetic operators. We know that we can use the plus sign to indicate addition, hyphen for subtraction, multiplication is the asterisk, division is the slash, and we have a new one, a modulus, that we were introduced to in chapter number 2. So we're going to continue with that. We're going to be working with data type and conversions. We have maybe an integer and we want to change it to a double so that we can put absolute numbers or floating point numbers. So we can do that. Overflow and underflow. Sometimes we're going to be saving or storing values in a data type that is not going to be big enough for our value. We know that we have a limit, right, in our data types. If it's going to be a float, we have so much. If it's going to be a short, we have so much value that we can store. But what if it exceeds? What will happen? Yes? What will it be set to 0?
If the number overflows?
If it overflows, it's going to give us an error. But it's not going to give us an error saying, hey, you made a mistake. We're just going to lose the value. So the results are going to be incorrect. And we don't want that. So we want to make sure that we can catch that error. Why will this be? Because we don't know what the user is going to be typing, right? Because now we're going to be asking the user, you give me some data. So we don't have control on that. So they can type something that is incorrect. So we want to be able to catch those errors in our program so that we don't provide the wrong information. We're going to be working with constants, but now we're going to name them. Just like we name variables, we're also going to be naming constants. We're going to be working with multiple and combined assignments. We know that we can use the equal operator, which is the assignment operator now for us. So we are going to be able to combine it with something else. When we display output, we want to format that. We want to reduce the number of decimal positions. If it's going to be dollars and cents, we know that we only need 2 positions for the cents. Why have 4 or 5? We don't want $12 and 0.45698 cents. We want $12.50. So we are going to be able to do that by formatting the output. We're going to continue to work with characters and strings, with single characters or multiple characters. We're going to skip this 3.9 using C strings because this is for C, not for C++, so we're going to skip this one. And then we're going to end with functions, mathematical functions. We're going to be introduced to mathematical functions today, but we're going to complement this with the last section that we have. So these are the topics that we're going to be covering in this unit. So we're going to start with the CIN. The CIN is going to be very useful so that we can ask the user for a value. Like I'm going to use the program that the last one that you work with. They gave us a value, they gave us $52, and they told us what is the tax if the tax rate is 2%. We had to put this value inside our program and this value inside our program. So we did an operation like something like this. Tax is assigned the value of 52 times 0.2, right? This is something 0.02, thank you. 0.02 because it's 2%. So we had this operation in our program. Something similar to this. We were providing these values. But what if the 52 is changing? What if the tax rate is changing? We have to ask the user, what is the amount that you pay? So maybe one user paid $100, another user paid $60, another user paid $10. So we want to make this possible with our program. So we're going to be asking the user, what price did you pay? And they're going to put $100. What price did you pay? And they're going to put $60. What price did you pay? And they're going to put $10. So this is going to change because we don't know what the user is going to be typing. So we want a way that we can ask the user, how much did you pay? So in order to do that, we're going to be using the CIN object. What directive did we use for the cout? The IO stream. That's exactly the same directive that we're going to be using for the CIN. So if we're going to be asking the user, give me a value, provide the program with the value, we have to use the IO stream as well. So we have to use the pound include and then the IO stream. Just like we do it with the cout. When we use the cout, we use an output stream operator, right? We use this operator. Every time that we want to send a value to the screen, it can be a skip a line, it can be a message, it can be a variable, it can be a constant. We always have to send it with the output stream operator. With the CIN, it's also going to work like that. It's going to need an input stream operator. So these symbols, instead of facing the arrow to the left, it's going to be facing to the right. Every time that we're going to be receiving a value from the user, we have to use this operator, the input stream operator. What this input stream operator is going to do is going to do the following. The user is going to use the keyboard to type. Let's suppose that the user puts 100, 3 keys, 100. When the user presses the enter key, and it's not until the user presses the enter key, this value, the 100, is going to go to a buffer. 100. And then from here is going to be transferred to main memory. Here is going to be received as characters, and then here is going to be translated into bits, right? Into signals on and off. So in here, the 100 is going to be represented with zeros and ones. So this is the process. First, the user is going to type something, is going to be sent to the buffer, and from the buffer is going to be translated to signals so that it can be stored in main memory. Who's going to be in charge of this? The cin with this input operator. Every time that we put something inside main memory, we need to have it in variables. So we need to establish variables so that it can receive those values. If we don't have variables, then it's not going to be able to store those values, because where do I move the 100 to if I don't have a variable already set up for it? So it's like I'm going to be trying to send something using the keyboard, but where is it going to be placed in main memory? It has to have a container. It needs a variable. So let's see this example right here. Step number 1, we're going to create a variable. So we are saying, okay, int is going to be height. So height, remember, this is going to be stored in main memory. Height is an int. It's going to be using 4 bytes, right? 4 bytes. So it's going to start, height is going to be pointing at the beginning. So here's the pointer. This is height. And it's going to say, okay, I'm going to be using 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes. So that's what we did in this first line. Second line, we're going to send a message to the screen, and we call this a prompt. A prompt. And we're going to say, how tall is this? And question mark. Or how tall is the room? Because this is the message that we have. And then we have the cin, number 3. The cin is going to send just a cursor that is going to be blinking on the screen, saying, okay, now I'm ready. You give me, you user, the one that is sitting in front of the screen, now you give me an answer to my question. The question is, how tall is the room? So now the cursor is going to be there blinking on the screen as waiting for that answer. So what we do is, if I'm the user, I'm going to type, right? With the keyboard, I'm going to type 50. So I put 50. When I press the enter key, that's when this 50 is going to be taken by the operator, is going to be placed in the buffer, and then after it's in there, the buffer is going to take it, okay, to height. Where's height? It's in main memory, and it's going to place it here with zeros and ones. So this is the operation. What will happen if they do not ask me the question? If we skip line number 2? On the screen, we're going to open up height, step number 1 in main memory, that is fine. And then we're not going to do number 2, we're going to do number 3. So on the screen, the cursor is just going to be there blinking, waiting for the user to type something, and it's not going to move. The computer is going to stop right there. The program execution is going to halt on that line. So then I am the user, I just see a screen with a cursor that is blinking. I don't know what to do, right? So that's why it's so important that we provide the prompt, that we say, okay, this is what I need. Give me an answer. Give me an answer. So every time that we use the cin, we're going to see it with a cout immediately before. Why? Because that is going to be providing the prompt. And then the cin, that is going to be accepting. We can have more than one value received by a cin. Let's suppose that I have now an int, h, and w. This is my first line. And then I have a cout. And I'm going to say, enter the height and the width of the room. And then I have my cin, and I have, how many things am I asking for? 2 things. So I need to have 2 variables. I cannot put 2 values in the same variable. Remember, the variable can only hold 1 value. So if I'm going to be asking for 2 things, height and width, then I need to provide 2 variables so that I can receive those values. So I'm going to say, okay, cin, and I need 1 input stream operator for the first value, and then I need another input stream operator for the second value. So every time that I mention a variable that is going to be receiving a value, I need an operator. How many variables I need? 2. How many input operators I need? 2. Each one is going to, remember, move from the keyboard to the buffer, from the buffer to main memory. The way that the user is going to be providing the information is going to be separating with a space or an enter key. So the user, after they receive the message, enter the height and the width, they can type 50 for the width, press enter key. The cursor is going to be waiting for the next value, and we put 10, press the enter key, and now the 50 is going to go to the H. Let's suppose that I have here the H, and here I have the W. H is going to receive a 50, and then the W is going to receive a 10. If I made a mistake, if I am the user, okay, the one that is working with this program, and I mix these numbers, the 10 I put it first, and then the 50 I put it second, that's the way that it's going to go in. The computer's not going to guess, it's going to say, oh no, the user meant the other way. No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to take the first value, is going to put it in the first variable. The second value is going to be put it in the second variable. Another way to do it is going to be, they type a 50, then they leave 1 space, and then they type the 10. That is also valid. So space or enter can separate the values. Questions? Okay, so we're going to try this. Let's open Visual Studio. and let's open Word. We're going to code a small project so that we can work with this. So this is our project. This is our definition. This program will ask the user for first name and GPA. After the program receives this data, it's going to display the information in a sentence format. So that's what the program is going to do. Okay? It's going to ask, give me your name, first name, give me your GPA, and then it's going to display in a sentence format this information. So it's going to say, John, your GPA is, and then whatever it is. That's what we want. Ask the user for something and then display the information. Simple, right? Okay, how is this going to be done? Let's think of this, how we're going to put it on the screen. I'm going to draw just once. This is my screen. And I'm going to be asking, what is your first name? And then I'm going to be putting X's because the user is going to be typing something there. We don't know what it is, right? Joe, John, Rose, Sue, Sergio. I don't know what name they're going to be typing. Then we're going to ask, what is your GPA? And then the user is going to type something up. I don't know what that is. Right? The program will ask the user for the first name and the GPA. So I have this first part right here. Then we're going to display the information in a sentence format. So something like this. Whatever name that is, your GPA is, and then whatever that is. Period, to end the sentence. I think I have a complete sentence. So we started by asking, what is your first name? They provided. What is your GPA? They provided. And then we're going to display this data that we receive in a complete sentence. Whoever, Joe, Ann, Sue, Sergio, your GPA is, and then 2.5, 3.8, 4.0, whatever they gave us. Okay, so we're ready to start with our pseudocode. Let's plan this. Let's develop the algorithm so that we can solve this. So step number 1, what do we need to do? Okay, we need 2 variables for the program. Okay, one thing that we do before we get the variables. That is correct. We need the variables. Call what? The IO stream. Why the IO stream? Because we need to be, we're going to display something and we're going to input something. So every time that we input something or we display, we are going to be needing the IO stream. So I'm going to put here preprocessor directives. So I need the IO stream. Is that it? Do we need something else? I think we do. We need the string. If we're going to be using, a name is usually more than a letter, right? If I was going to be using just single characters, then I will just use my data type will be chart, and I don't need the string. But this is going to be Joe has 3, Sergio has 5, right? So I'm going to be needing more than one character. So I need my string. So I need 2 directives, IO stream and string. So now we can start with the variables. Okay, so we need variables. How many variables do I need? 2. One for the name and another one for the GPA. So let's see. First name is one variable. What data type do I need for first name? String. Remember, when I say data type, you have to go through the list. Do I need integers? If I have integers, I have 3, right? I have the short, I have the int, and I have the long. Do I need floating point numbers? No. But if I do, I have 3. I have the float, I have the double, and I have the long double. Then do I need signals like on and off? That will be my Boolean. Do I need characters? Do I need single characters or multiple characters? If I need single characters, it's going to be 1. If I need multiple characters, it's going to be what? String. So this one is going to be multiple characters, so I need string. You mentioned 2. What other variable do I need? GPA. GPA. What type? What data type do I need for this one? Okay, it's going to be a float or a double. Why do we need this? Why not int or short?
Because it might be a decimal point.
It might be a decimal. Okay, so we have this. We have the preprocessors already. We already mentioned that. We already mentioned the variables that we need. So we're ready to start now with the process. So what is the first thing that I need? Let's look at the screen here that we have. Right here. How can I make this happen? I need to display, right? I need to display this question. So I'm going to display what is your name? After I display the what is your name question, what do I do?
You have to get the input.
Get the input. Get the input. Where are we going to put the input? First name. I'm just going to put it in parentheses so that I remember. Then, okay, so I did the first line. This one right here. Second line. Display. What is your GPA? And then get the input. And we're going to be getting the GPA, right? So we did the 2 lines now. What is your name? We already did it, and we're accepting the name. What is your GPA? And we're accepting the GPA. Now, we need to display this data in a sentence format, right? So what are we going to display? Display what?
Your name is?
Not your name is.
Oh, sorry.
First name, right? We're going to display first name. What else are we going to display?
Then you're gonna put your GPA is.
Okay. We're also going to display your GPA is. What else are we going to display? And the GPA. So we're going to be displaying 3 things, right? First name, the message your GPA is, and then whatever we have in main memory inside GPA. Are we done?
No.
And so we finish our program, or the algorithm this time. Questions on this pseudocode? No questions? Okay, so now we're ready to start our code. We agree that this is going to work, that we don't see any problem here with the solution, so we're going to be now coding this. So I'm going to put it here on the side because that's going to be my guide. And I'm going to start with a new project, making sure that it's Visual C++, Win32 console application. I'm going to repeat the steps, please, because I checked a couple of computers and the process of entering and starting a new project was the one that was making the error, the build error. So we're going to put here, this is going to be for me, you can name it whatever you want, Chapter 3. This is program number 1, and this is the second class. This is the name that I decide that I'm going to be calling this program right now. So I'm going to click on the OK. I'm going to click on Next. Empty project. I'm going to finish. Want to make sure that I don't have anything in my folders, and I'm going to start by setting up something in my source files by right-clicking the name, add new item. Make sure that it's code, that it's C++, and I choose to call it the same thing. Chapter 3 underscore PROG1 underscore second class. And I'm going to add. Okay, so now I'm ready to start my code. the first thing that we do is we create documentation for our program, right? So we type a comment line saying what this program is about. So I'm going to put here the slash asterisk because I'm going to be using more than one line. And I have it here on this side, so I'm just going to grab it, copy it, and paste it. I'm also going to be typing the today's date so that I know when I created this, 10/4/2016, and then the programmer. We're all doing this program, so I'm going to say, okay, the programmer is COSC 1336. We have to have credit because we're all doing this program together. And I'm done. How do I close my comment? Start or asterisk and then the slash. Okay, so now I go to my pseudocode to see what I need to do. Step number 1, preprocessor directives, IOStream and string. Okay, how do I write this in C++? Pound include. And then the IOStream. Close it. That's for the IOStream. And I do the same thing for the string, right? Pound, include, and then string. Close it. Okay, how do I end my includes? Using namespace, std, semicolon. So I have now line number 1 ready of my pseudocode. So line number 1 of my pseudocode is translated into C++ with 3 lines, right? 2 includes and 1 using. So I'm ready to start my program. So I start int main, open and close parentheses, open curly braces, close curly brace, and inside I'm going to be placing my steps 2 through 8. So the first thing that we have is define 2 variables. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit more of documentation to my program so that I remember what I'm doing. Define variables. It's only 1 line, so I'm just going to be using the slash. So I need 1 variable that is going to be for first name and is going to be string variable. So what is the format that we use when we define variables? What goes first?
The variable.
The variable name.
Then it's equal sign. I'm trying to call it.
Okay, what goes first? The variable name? No, the data type. The data type goes first, then the name, and then it's optional if I want to give it a value, right? The assignment operator and then the value that is optional. But the 2 things that are required is the data type goes first and then the name. So I did it here backwards in my pseudocode just so that we remember that this is pseudocode. So I always put data type is going to be string and then the name is for the first name. So I'm going to put just F name, just like that, and then semicolon. So what am I doing here? I'm setting up this area in main memory. I'm defining, right? I'm saying reserve this area. It's going to be called F name, and I need, I don't know how many bytes because it's a name. Joe only needs 3, but then another name may be using 10 characters, another name, we don't know how many. So then the next one is going to be, we decided either a float or a double. It doesn't matter which one, right? So we're going to put here, let's see, double. And it's going to be GPA, semicolon. So now I have line number 2 of my pseudocode. I translated that into C++. Okay, now line number 3 is display what is your first name. This is the prompt. So now I'm going to be inputting data. Input data. So I'm just going to be adding comments so that I know what I'm doing in that part of the program. So how am I going to input data? First, I need to display what is your first name. How do we display in C++? Cout. How many things are we going to be displaying? One big string, one question. So I just need one output operator. I'm going to type, what is your first name? Question mark, leave one space, close it, and then close the statement with a semicolon. After this, I'm going to go now to line number 4. Get the input, which is going to be the first name. How do we get something from the user in C++? Cin. Cin. And how many things are we getting in this line? 1. So we only need one input stream operator. So I use this. How many variables do we need? 1, because we're getting just one thing, right? What is the name of the variable that we're using? F name. F and then capital N-A-M-E, semicolon. Just like that. So now line number 5, we're going to display again. So we're going to use cout, output operator. What is your GPA? Let's capitalize this. Question mark, leave one space, close it with a quote, close the statement with a semicolon, and then again, the cin, and the input operator, and where are we going to be placing this value? In GPA, in the variable, this variable right here, double GPA. So we put GPA, semicolon. So now what part do we need to do from our program? Output, right? Send to the screen. We got something, we're doing something with it in the CPU, we are rearranging it, and now we're ready to send it out. So this is going to be my output. So I'm going to output what? Cout, right? How many things do I want to send out? Display the first name, display the message, display the GPA. 3 things. So how many output operators do I need? 3. So I'm going to cout first your name. Where's the name? F name. Then this is one thing, right? One item. So now I need another output operator for the second item. The second item is going to be a message. Put a space, then your GPA is another space, close the quote. But then I need another item. So I use, again, my output operator, and I'm going to be displaying GPA. And I'm going to add one more thing that I always add, my end line. End line, and then semicolon. So here, I'm really sending 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So I need 1 operator, 2 operators, 3 operators, 4 operators. Okay? And then the last part is going to be the end, right? So how do I end a program in C++? Return 0 semicolon. So this is our program. Let's see, we're going to run it. Control F5. We checked that we don't have any errors, no red lines. Bless you. So it's coming out. Here it is. Now it's asking me, okay, what is your first name? And it's as the cursor is there. Do you see the blinking light? That it's showing. It's waiting for that answer. What did we do here? Let's see. What is your first name? That's exactly what we have here. And then it's stopping. See, in first name right here, it's stopping, waiting for the user. Now, I'm not the programmer anymore. I'm the one that is using the program so that the user can give it a name. So I'm going to say, okay, it's Joe. And it's not until I press the enter key that this is going to continue. So I press the enter key and it goes to the next line. And it's going to display, what is your GPA? So I'm going to put 2.75. Okay, and it's not until the user presses the enter key that is going to go to the next line. So I press enter and then it's saying, Joe, your GPA is 2.75. Questions on the logic. The logic. If you have syntax errors, we need to correct those. Those can be corrected because you're missing a semicolon. That's not what I want. It's the logic. Do you understand how we solved this project? Questions on the logic? Okay, I'm going to change it. I'm not going to follow my plan anymore. Let's suppose that the program is going to be asking, what is your your first name and GPA? We have 2 questions now, not only one. What is your first name and GPA? What do we need to do now? How many things are we going to be accepting in our program?
2.
2. So how many variables do we need? 2. So my cin is going to require 2 operators. 2 variables, 2 operators. So I'm going to say, okay, cin, what am I going to be accepting first? Name. So I have to name that, fname. And then? And then GPA. Can I put here GPA? Can I put a comma?
No, you need another.
No, we need another set of input operators. So I put GPA and then my semicolon. Oh, that is the wrong operator. There we go. Okay?
And then we will delete the other one.
We already did. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Control F5. So now the question is different, right? Maybe I should have rewritten that question. Like enter your first name and your GPA. But that's fine. What is your first name and GPA? So the program is going to be prompting me for two things. Here we go. What is your first name and GPA? And the cursor is there. So I type, okay, my name is John. And then to enter the second value, I either put a space or I press the enter key. Second value, and the cursor is still there blinking, asking for the second value. So now, what is the second thing that I need to put? It's a GPA. So I'm going to put 3.5. And now I press enter key. Now, John, your GPA is 3.5. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Let's follow this one on the back. Gustavo, let's follow this one so you understand this part. Okay, we can correct the program later. So we have two variables that are going to be accepting the input with the cin. I'm going to run it again. This time I'm not going to separate the values with spaces. I'm going to separate the values with enter keys so that you know how it's halting, how it's stopping. So what is your first name? So I type Ann, press the enter key, and the cursor is still there blinking. Why? Because it's waiting for the second answer. My second answer is the GPA, so it's 3.1. I press the enter key, and now it's going to be sending it to the memory locations, and it's going to continue with the next line, which is display, and your GPA is 3.1. Remember that I mentioned that it's very important that the order. What will happen, I'm going to run it again, Control F5. If the user types the GPA first and then the name second. So what is your first name and GPA? I don't know how to follow instructions. Users sometimes, that is a big problem. So I type, oh, they want my GPA, here it is, and they want my name, Joe. 3.5 and Joe. Press enter key. What did we get? Can you read? Can you read the line? It's giving you 3.5. Your GPA is negative 9.25596 exponent plus 0.61. That's what it's giving you. Why? Because the 3.5 is going to be used as a name. No problem. Remember, name is a string, so it can accept anything. So it's thinking, okay, they want me to, that's a name. Well, they want to be called 3.5, that's fine. But then Joe, it's a string, characters, letters in this case, and it's going to be placed in a double. And double can only accept numbers, right? Numbers. So it's going to say, hey, I cannot put it in there. And what it's going to display is trash, whatever there was in that location in memory. So we're going to get incorrect results. The program still runs. I don't have any errors here, but it's giving me the incorrect result. So we have a logical error. Questions about the cout and cin? The logic. Okay. So we return to the PowerPoint presentation. And we are going to be talking about mathematical expressions. I already mentioned that in order to create mathematical expressions, we can use the operators. The add is going to be a plus. The hyphen is going to be subtraction. Multiplication is going to be asterisk. Division is going to be the slash. And the modulus is which symbol do we use? The percentage. And what is the modulo for? So that we can get the remainder of an operation. And the output is always going to be an int. It's always going to be an integer. So here, they are adding a little bit more. They're saying, okay, the expression can be a constant, just like this one, a number 2. It can, if it's a numerical constant, that's fine. It can also be a string constant with double quotes. It can be a variable, like this one, height, any type of variable. And well, if it's mathematical, it will only be numerical. Of course, so it will only be numbers. And we can combine variables and constants with operators. Like in this case, we're adding A and B. We're also dividing right here. We use also the assignment operator to keep the value or the result of an expression if we're going to use it. So we have the assignment operator right here. Why? Because we're going to be using the result of this operation, this expression, and we're going to put it in area because we're going to use it later on. But sometimes we don't use the result anymore. So we just need to do the operation once and not keep the result. If that is the case, then we can just name the expression in a cout because I don't need the result. But if I need the result because I'm going to be using it later on in my program, then I don't want to make the arithmetic unit work twice, solving the same expression. So I'm always going to solve it and put the value in a variable. So that is the bottom line of this. We use the assignment operator to keep the result of the expression because we're going to use it later on in the program. If we don't use the result, if we only need the result for one-time display, then we just need to name the expression in the cout, and that's it. When we are creating expressions, complex expressions that are going to have multiple operators, we have to keep in mind the order of operations. And I'm sure you already know this. If I have 4 plus 6 minus 3 multiplication 2, which of these operators is going to be solved first? Multiplication. And then the addition, and then the subtraction. Why? Because it's going to follow an order of operations. First, if I change this with parentheses, let's see, which part is going to be solved first? The parentheses. So we do parentheses first, then it's going to check if we have unary negation. Negation is just negative numbers. That's what it's going to check next. And then it's going to check, do multiplication, division, and modulus. And then the last thing is going to do addition and subtraction. And everything is going to be solved from left to right. So we have here some examples. If I have this 2 plus 2 times 2 minus 2, this part is going to be solved first, right? So this is going to be 2 plus 4 minus 2. Then it's going to say 2 plus 4 is 6, minus 2 is 4. So we have it here. The second line, you already told me that the parentheses are going to be solved first. So we have 2 plus 2 is 4. So this will be like 4 times 2 minus 2. Multiplication is done first. So we have 4 plus 2 is 8, minus 2 is 6. Here it is. We change the parentheses on the other side, on line number 3. So we say, okay, 2 plus 2 times 2 minus 2. 2 minus 2 is going to be 0. So now we have addition and multiplication. Multiplication is done first. So we have 2 times 0 is 0 plus 2. So we have the 2 here. Last line, number 4. We have 2 sets of parentheses. Which one is going to be done first?
The one on the left.
The one on the left. So it's going to be this one right here. 2 plus 2 is 4 times 2 minus 2 is 0. So we have 4 times 0 is going to be 0. Just one word of caution. When we're writing like this formula, area is equal to length times width. We put it together, right? This doesn't mean anything to C++. What do we need to use in order to indicate multiplication? The asterisk. Another thing that you have to keep in mind, in C++ we don't have exponent, right? We don't have that operator. So in order to create an exponential operator, we have to use a function, the POW function. The POW function, first of all, it's going to need a directive. So it's going to need CMath, just like the cout and cin needs the IO stream. And the string variables, they need the string. Well, if I use power, POW in my program, I have to open this in my includes. Then the next thing is when I create a power, I'm going to use the name POW. This is a reserved word, and it's going to require 2 things. We call them 2 arguments. The first one is going to be the variable or the value that I want to raise to a power, comma, and then the power itself. So if I have like this, 4 raised to the 3rd power, I'm going to write POW 4, comma 3. If I need to raise number, NUM, to the 2nd power, I need to write POW, open parenthesis, num, comma, 2, because it's the 2nd power. Questions? No questions? Okay, we're going to stop right here, and for lab we're going to have a practice exercise, which will be on Thursday.